I totally lied about my friend's last words, and I will not honor her last request. My friend Amy died a couple of months ago, and I was the last one to see her alive. I went over to her apartment, we watched a movie, ate dinner, I left to finish an essay, and then she OD'd and passed alone. She was 19. Our final conversation was unremarkable. I said it was good to see her, thanked her for the food, we made plans for the sports we were going to play together the following week. I told her I would send her a bread recipe we had talked about. She said she was excited to bake it to bring to a potluck that was coming up. She wished me luck with the essay and I said I would try, but Brian, my roommate, was always loud and distracting, so hopefully I could get it done before he came back from clubbing. She laughed, and the very last thing she said was, "Say hi to Brian for me." Amy didn't answer any messages the next day, so I sent her roommate, Kara, a message to ask if everything was okay. Kara had been staying nearby with her boyfriend, so she went home to see what was happening, and found Amy's body. She let me know what had happened, and after that there were police and all sorts. It was a shock and confusing, but I did not pry for details. Amy and Kara were incredibly close, practically sisters, so I absolutely did not want to bother her with questions, and the police had investigating to do. I was asked to describe the evening. Amy used substances frequently. They don't think the OD was on purpose, but they wanted to know if she was acting strangely. Had she taken anything while I was there? What time did I leave, etc., and the death was deemed not suspicious. Amy had not contacted anyone online after I left, so I was the person she last spoke to. Kara asked me what her last words were. I lied. I said it had been to wish me luck with my essay, and that she hoped I had a good night. Amy had always been positive and had such a genuinely lovely soul. Well wishes were fitting last words. I did not say anything about saying hi to Brian. Why did I lie? Brian can screw off. There is a running joke among some of my friends about Brian's magical ability to make everything about himself. We wanted to do a little Great British Bake Off for fun. Brian buys a sparkly suit and declares himself Paul Hollywood and yells through the whole thing. "You're doing a painting?" Brian can't draw, but until you physically leave he will lecture you about why you're doing it wrong. Never do improv with Brian, it's like improv with Michael Scott. A group of people want to do life drawing, Brian finds a way to be the exposed model. Any birthday features speeches and songs performed by Brian, whether you really know him or not. Someone was going to come out as gay and was planning a little picnic for it. Brian decided to come dressed as a drag queen to take the pressure off. Whatever sport or instrument or language you try to learn, Brian will insist he is better, or would be better if you try to learn it, which he won't. He physically can't stand to not be the center of attention. I do not like Brian. I cannot wait to not live with him anymore. He thinks of himself as charismatic, and at first he truly seems that way, but over time you realize it's all just volume and narcissism. That said, many people do still like him, life of the party and all, while his older friends grow to despise him and gradually exit the group. I was one of the first people to find out that Amy had passed, and that evening I called my best friend to get it off my chest and because I needed to vent feelings. Brian heard. I should have been more careful, but I wasn't in my right mind. He asked for more details. Why did he need more details? Because he had already started drafting a mass message to send to all of Amy's friends to let them know that she had passed. Amy and Brian met maybe twice. I told him he couldn't send it. This was on the day I found out. The police were only just involved. We didn't even know if her parents knew yet. He went off on a whole explanation of how he could find them on Facebook and could check land records to find their house, and go there in a suit with a bunch of flowers to sit them down and properly inform them. I said the police would tell them, or Kara. As I said, Amy and Kara were close. Kara is from another country, so she spends summers with Amy's family, practically like a second daughter. Why on earth would Brian, a total stranger, be a more fitting messenger? He said he had thought that he should get to be the one to tell them. I remember it well, because get. For non-native English speakers, you get to be player one, you get to have an extra piece of chocolate cake, you get to dress up, you get to have a little treat that you want. You absolutely do not get to tell someone that their daughter has passed away. This anti-Brian rant is getting too long. He held off on telling most people until after Amy's parents put out an official statement, though then gloated about having known about the news beforehand. He seemed to think that he would be able to speak at her funeral, but compromised and spoke instead at an informal gathering of friends that we held to honor her. He gave several speeches which, if you weren't aware that the two barely knew each other, would make you think that they were very close. He led a number of vigils, events, gatherings, which, yes, were a good mourning opportunity for many people, but I'm too far gone with disliking him that I can't see it as anything other than him trying to gain an ownership of the situation. We put together a fundraiser in Amy's name for a mental health organization she had used, and Brian was upset that he was not listed as a contributor. He did not donate. We had a book where anyone could write about their memories with Amy. Kara wrote a half page, Brian wrote 2.5. I do not like to lie. It makes me feel sick to my stomach. A couple of months have passed and the knowledge that I actively lied about Amy's last words is gnawing at me. It's so small and dumb, but I didn't say hi to Brian for her. I said I would. She made her last ever request and I'm denying it. I'm sorry for the paragraphs about what a massive jerk he is, but I hope it demonstrates my point. This is what he is like. This is how he behaved, thinking a mutual friend he'd only met a couple of times had passed away. Imagine what he would have been like if he knew that her last words were about him. I confess, channeling my negative feelings into hating how he has turned this into a main character moment has channeled them away from me, and the obvious fact that I left her alone to pass away. I think my anger at myself for the lying might be part of the overall guilt I feel about it, but that's what therapy is for. Thank you for reading. I have given this a lot of thought and I'm not going to tell anyone what she said, but I needed to get it out of my brain and into words.